Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing fantastic. So, as you know, I like reading about how different Americans protect themselves from criminals with their exercising of the Second Amendment rights we have, and why you shouldn't believe liberals when they demonize you as a law-abiding citizen having the constitutional right, to bear arms. So I want to share with you some positive stories from the American Hunter magazine. It's called The Armed Citizen, and it just talks about moments where people who had the right to bear arms saved other people's lives and saved their lives from criminals who get their guns illegally, and usually get them from weapons that are smuggled across the border by the cartels, or they're flown in on different, drug airplanes. They come in, and you just can't prevent criminals from being criminals. So let's share some positive stories about good people who did good things with weapons, since the liberal media likes to put every person in the same category that likes to protect their family as extremists, which is just not true. So here's one. On the evening of January 2nd, an unknown man broke into a home in Salem, Oregon. A 62-year-old man was with his daughter and grandchildren in the home. The homeowner was able to retrieve his firearm and defended himself and his family, shooting and killing the intruder. The defense attorney essentially said that Oregon has a stand your ground policy, which means you don't have to retreat if you're in immediate danger. So what does that mean? Liberals have made it to where if a criminal breaks into your home, you have to leave and you have no right to shoot them. That is the soft on crime liberal policy, where they coddle criminals at the expense of citizens. Whereas more conservative policies are that you get to stand your ground. This is your house. A criminal comes into your home. You have a right to eliminate them, and that is beautiful and that is good. Okay? If someone is coming into your house, they're not your friends. Okay? And you have every right as a human being to execute them effectively. Now, this guy is 62 years old. He's pretty awesome. Badass guy. He has his grandchildren in the home, and he defended them. And he eliminated the threat. That is a good grandpa. That is a good father. So, a home invasion. A lot of people don't understand how common home invasions are in America. And this is in Salem, Oregon, right? That's not really a ghetto. So, criminals can travel, scope out your home, and try to hurt you. And it's very important that you be prepared for such an event. Now, the next story says, as a York City, PA restaurant was closing on the night of January 3rd, an unknown man broke into the business and demanded money from the register. The restaurant owner was in the back of the business when he heard the intruder threatening his wife and son. The armed citizen ran to the front of the restaurant and fatally shot the robber. So what do you see here? This guy is just closing his restaurant, right? He's just doing his job in Pennsylvania. And his son and wife is being threatened by a degenerate, crappy criminal. And this guy has a firearm, and he's able to get that threat out of there. And he fatally shot the robber, which means he eliminated the scumbag, which is beautiful. So, what do you see so far? A home invasion, a restaurant owner. These are common people. These aren't extremists. These aren't, terrorists or whatever the heck liberals want to say, right? They always want to frame gun owners and people who value the Second Amendment as evil. And all of us know that the liberals are incrementally trying to take away different types of weapons, and piece by piece get it to where you can't even get something, right? They're doing it through a step process. They're not doing a sweeping gun grab. They're doing it piece by piece, and then they gaslight you and say, no, we don't want to take away your weapons. Meanwhile, those politicians, those celebrities all have private security who all have weapons. They just don't want you to have the right to defend yourself against criminals. And when you say that the bad music examples, the gangs and the thugs promote bad gun usage, that we should have educational instructors be more promoted, they say no. So they hold down proper gun education being promoted while promoting music that shows the worst aspects of human behavior and irresponsible gun usage. And they mock you if you say that kind of music shouldn't be online. Right? So you can see how the liberal mindset is utterly confused and is very sophisticated and will actually help bring in a lot of oppression, as the same way that Australia and China did during the lockdowns with their population. You're only free as you can defend yourself from a tyrannical government and criminal force, because the police are second responders. They come after you've been hurt, right? At a moment of danger, it's up to you to defend your life and your family. And that's what the Second Amendment is for hunting, defending yourself against the abuses of government and bad criminals. So you're working in a restaurant, you just have no idea when some wacko's going to come through, right? And a lot of these criminals are drug addicts. And liberals want to legalize, tax, and regulate all drugs. And if you remember on my community post, they actually don't even want you to be stigmatized for using drugs. The secular liberal atheists glorify drug usage. So if they want to defund cops, they want to abolish prisons, they want to legalize all drugs, they want to take away your Second Amendment, you can see how the liberal policies make you a sitting duck for criminals. While they also promote the destruction of the family and thug music and other bad modes of expression, right? So you can see how this all interlaps and is a webbed force of destruction and decay. Here's another one. 2 men agreed to meet up in Humboldt Park on the west side of Chicago, Illinois, on the evening of January 5th to exchange a pair of shoes for money. According to police, the 18-year-old shoe seller asked to see the money before he would hand over the shoes. As the 28-year-old purchaser reached in his pocket to get the cash, the seller allegedly drew his firearm, shooting the victim in the shoulder. The victim, who is a concealed carry license holder, drew his gun and shot back at the attacker, striking him in the hand before attempting to drive away, but ultimately crashing into a parked car. So what do you notice here? Someone just wanted to buy some simple shoes. He, the victim, had a concealed carry permit. Liberals want you to not have this right. They are scared and afraid of every law-abiding citizen who passes a background check of having a weapon, right? And this is just somebody going to buy shoes and they have a firearm to protect their life. So you've seen home invasion, restaurant owner, and a shoe purchase, right? The criminals don't bother going to a legal gun shop. They get theirs on the black market, right? And so these concealed carry permits usually are sought by very good people who have good intentions, who just want to protect their life. The next one is a 32-year-old healthcare worker turned the tables on a would-be carjacker just before midnight on January 10th. Upon arriving for work at the home of a patient, the healthcare worker was confronted by an 18-year-old man who allegedly pulled a gun on him. The suspect approached the vehicle on the driver's side and drew his firearm. The worker, who had a valid license to carry, drew his own firearm and shot the suspect through his car window, causing him to run away. So a healthcare worker who's going to take care of a patient. Okay? The liberals love to make it seem posh, classy to be a victim, and they like to make you seem like a gun nut and a backwards redneck if you support having a weapon to defend yourself. And they never cover positive stories on people defending themselves. They only cover the negative because they're so hateful, they're so obsessed, they're so enraged about people loving and being enthusiastic about being in a state of liberty and not a slave to a criminal or anyone else. And so this is just a healthcare worker trying to go do their job, and some pathetic criminal tries to carjack him, tries to rob him. And carjackings, home invasions, robberies, these happen a lot in the United States. Okay? And so we have to remember that all people from walks of life have the right to defend themselves from criminals. If you take away that right, you make it very difficult. You put people on registries, you label them, you shame them. You're only hurting the good person and helping the criminals, because it doesn't take long for a criminal to get an illegal weapon. It's not hard at all. So again, hearing these positive stories helps us to see the lies of liberals and how they constantly frame every scenario as, we need to restrict people more, we need to harm people more in this way. Just follow their policies, be rational, and don't fall for their emotional propaganda. Look at the actual ways people defend themselves. Here's another one. An employee of a vape shop in Rock Island, Illinois, shot at 3 suspects attempting to rob the business. The suspects, at least one of whom was armed, entered the store and started threatening employees and demanding merchandise. The armed employee shot at the suspects, wounding 2 and causing all to flee. So what do you see here? An employee of a vape shop has a firearm to defend his business. Some criminals came in, they wanted to take a bunch of stuff. He didn't allow it, and he was able to defend his business. Right now, during the Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots, tons of small businesses were looted, and when business owners, especially the Koreans and the Chinese, stood in front of their businesses with big old AR-15s, liberals were upset, saying that reparations are due and that no one should get shot over property, over merchandise. But the immigrant business owners said, you don't have a right to loot our businesses because a criminal drug addict who swallowed all his pills, aka George Floyd, just because this one person caused these riots, you don't have a right to loot us. We have a right to use our Second Amendment as legal immigrants to defend our livelihood. And liberals were entirely upset. I watched these riots. I left that political movement. I stopped being a person who believed liberal lies shortly after that, because I realized what the liberals were actually advocating for, what the cultural Marxists were advocating for. And so it is the right of business owners to defend their property and to do what they need to do. Now, liberals will say, who don't like capitalism and who are moving towards cultural Marxism, will say the bourgeoisie shouldn't have a right to defend their businesses and private property shouldn't have any type of defense. But I would argue something different. So I like hearing how the restaurant owner, the grandpa who defended his family during the home invasion, the healthcare worker, the shoe purchaser, all had their lives and others saved because they were able to be allowed to carry a legal firearm with a permit. Now, the next one is really interesting as well. A 39-year-old pizza delivery driver was out on a delivery in Philadelphia, PA, the evening of January 27th, when an unknown man allegedly approached with a firearm drawn and demanded the driver's vehicle. The driver was also armed, however, and was able to defend himself, shooting the suspect multiple times. And so, this is a dude simply delivering pizza, and some pathetic loser criminal wanted to carjack him. Now, a pizza delivery driver, that's a very common job. Uber Eats, DoorDash, right? You're going to dangerous neighborhoods, you need protection. Even if you're not in a dangerous neighborhood, you have a right to a weapon to defend yourself so you can go home to your family. Don't let liberals take your rights away. And don't let people say, oh, that's fear-mongering. No. If you've ever been attacked by a robber, it changes you forever. Don't be a victim. Don't be a worm. Be strong. Here's another one, which is far too common. On the evening of January 28th, police in Waco, Texas were called to a Quick Trip gas station for a stabbing in progress. A 51-year-old man was seen stabbing a 61-year-old woman as she attempted to flee into the store. A witness to the incident armed himself and shot the alleged attacker, ending the attack. Sadly, the victim later died. The armed bystander stayed on the scene and fully cooperated with the Waco Police Department's investigation and was not charged with any crime. This innocent lady was at a gas station. How many of us go to gas stations? And some psychopath shanked her, okay? And someone who had a permit to carry was able to help her. That is a hero. We need to remember that when you're in danger, good armed citizens can save you from a bad criminal. Okay? She died, sadly, but still, how many of us go to the gas stations all the time? And in some areas, sadly, in many parts of the United States, it is very dangerous. In Oakland, in Richmond, San Jose, you see gas stations where the cashier is behind bulletproof glass. Okay? The thug criminal gang culture has spread through social media, and liberals endorse it and allow it and think it's very cool. And they just don't want you to promote religious values. They promote a different kind of culture. And this has allowed many people to have to live in dangerous situations. And a lot of these people who do stabbings are druggies. They're junkies. And if we know that liberals want to make drugs easier to get with legalizing, taxing, and regulating them and giving safe spots for people to use, and they don't even want you to shame a drug addict, well, we'll have more chemically imbalanced people on the street committing atrocities, especially with hallucinogenic drugs. So, when they want to defund police, as they've been chanting over and over, remember, it's up to you to defend your fellow citizens and to defend yourself, right? Don't let liberals disarm you. Don't do it. Here's the last one, which is really interesting. 2 employees were working in a Philadelphia, Pennsylvania corner store during the early morning hours on February 1st. According to the store's surveillance video, 2 suspects, one with a small handgun and one with a larger one, entered the store and attempted to rob the business. When the first suspect came behind the counter and pointed his firearm at the clerk's head, a dog, coincidentally named Bullet, that's pretty cool, right, jumped at the suspect, creating a moment for the clerk to grab her own firearm to protect herself and the store manager. Hearing the commotion, the second suspect rounded the corner with his firearm drawn. The store clerk exchanged gunfire with the suspects, hitting one, causing him to drop his firearm. Both men fled the store on foot. The clerk, unfortunately, was shot several times, but became later stabilized and recovered. But you see that the clerk, who had a weapon, was able to defend the dog, defend the merchandise, and defend her manager. Okay? And so, wherever you look at it, if you're a pizza delivery driver, you're going to buy shoes, you're a healthcare worker who has a late night shift, you have a right as a human being, and guaranteed by the American Constitution, to have a weapon to defend yourself. And when the media has an agenda to disarm the American population, to make us weak, to make us unable to defend our property, our lives, and our nation, this causes a problem. An armed society is a polite society, and good gun owners have a right to express their values, to help others be educated, rational, and informed, and this is a value we have to preserve and speak about, because we can't let the hip-hop rap music culture and the serial killer horror genre movie of Hollywood make every gun owner look bad. Rather, we should instead promote the classic Americana values of safe gun ownership. And I want you to think about how in Islam there's the fear prayer, where the weapons don't have to be put down. One line of people who hold their weapons in times of war guard your back as you pray, and then they rotate, if you remember that prayer. Islam does not say you have to be a victim to criminals. An eye for an eye. You have a right to your life. Okay? Don't let the liberals make you think it's noble to disarm yourself and be a whiny, wormy victim, because these same people say drugs are good, you shouldn't shame drug users, they promote alcohol, they promote pimp and brothel culture, which creates human trafficking and mafia-like actions. They refuse to close the border. They don't want a wall. They don't want the Secure Fence Act that was in around 2006, 2007. So the border is really open. Humans are being smuggled, weapons and mass amounts of fentanyl. And they also promote Cardi B and Jay-Z and others who sing and hang out with people who promote criminal activity, which lands people in prison, while not allowing classic cowboy shows like John Wayne or just proper gun usage YouTube channels. They try to censor those. They try to censor hunting channels. So they crack down on the rational, good stuff while promoting Tekashi 6ix9ine and other modern rappers who are really irresponsible with their gun habits. Okay? And a lot of these liberals are hypocrites themselves, especially if they're politicians, because they are guarded by weapons, but they want you, the person who actually has to survive and live amongst the criminals, to be less safe. If you are a woman taking the bus at night and there's people high on drugs, there's brutal men, crazy women, and you're pregnant or you have your 2 small children, you have a firearm, this firearm can help save your life by the permission of Allah. And you don't have to be afraid. You just have to get educated by an instructor, get your permit, go to the shooting range and practice, and become more sophisticated and less afraid. You have a right to defend yourself. You have a duty to defend your home, okay? And you could save the life of someone, and that is a beautiful thing. So hopefully you got inspired by these positive stories of responsible gun owners, and will always remember the good stories when liberals are trying to brainwash you into disarming yourself while they promote government medical oppression and other things that'll harm us in the future. Hopefully you're having a good day, and I'll see you next time.